Hi, this is Denise, reading to you the Tuesday, May 28th edition of the Cape Cod Times. We begin with the weather. Today, a high of 73 with a low of 58. Clouds giving way to some sun. On Wednesday, partly sunny, pleasant, and less humid, a high of 72 with a low of 56. On Thursday, showers around in the AM, periods of sun, a high of 67 with a low of 53. On Friday, clouds and sun with a shower or two, a high of 67 with a low of 55. And on Saturday, sunny and pleasant, a high of 72 with a low of 55. The sun will rise today at 5:11 a.m., set at 8:06 p.m. for a total of 14 hours and 55 minutes of daylight. In the lottery, the numbers game dated Monday, May 27th, midday, 4628. Midday again, 4628. The numbers game evening, 9698. Again, 9698. Mass cash for Monday, May 27th, 8, 10, 17, 18, 34. Again, 8, 10, 17, 18, 34. Powerball for Monday, May 27th, 9, 30, 39, 49, 59 with a Powerball of 21. Again, 9, 30, 39, 49, 59 with a Powerball of 21. And Lucky for Life, dated Monday, May 27th, 2, 9, 17, 19, 46 with a Lucky Ball of 4. Again, 2, 9, 17, 19, 46 with a Lucky Ball of 4. On the front page, sharks are here now. Fresh bites found on dead minke whale off Chatham, by Heather McCarran, Cape Cod Times. As another summer season begins on the beaches of Cape Cod and other coastal areas, researchers are reminding people to be on the lookout for Atlantic white sharks after recently observing 2 marine mammals with fresh bite marks off Chatham and Plymouth, one just this week. Researchers with the New England Aquarium on Thursday issued an advisory ahead of Memorial Day for people returning to the shore to be aware of their surroundings, report white shark sightings, and review shark safety. John Chisholm, an adjunct scientist with the aquarium's Anderson Cabot Center for Ocean Life, said he spotted 2 white sharks during an aerial survey on Wednesday off Nauset and Monomoy, one just a couple of hundred yards offshore and one about a mile out. On the same day, he also flew over a dead minke whale with fresh shark bites reported by Pythias Sport Fishing. It shows that the sharks are here now, said Chisholm, who last month also observed a seal off Manomet Point in Plymouth with a fresh bite wound. With beach weather returning, he said, this is a good reminder for people to review shark safety guidelines and be shark smart. How to be shark smart? Being shark smart includes looking for seals, a favorite prey animal for white sharks on the beach and in the water. Also look for big schools of fish, Chisholm said, as well as a large group of birds diving into the water that can indicate the presence of a lot of fish. A lot of people think the sharks only eat the seals, he said, but pointed out that they will also go after fish, so any signs of activity, especially in the zones where we know we get a lot of shark activity, should be noted. It is also helpful to be aware of any drop-offs or trenches where seals and sharks may hunt and to stay close to shore. A lot of the east-facing beaches on Cape Cod drop off very quickly or will have a trench between the beach and a sandbar where there's deeper water. Sharks do get in there. Most white shark sightings have been off the outer Cape from Provincetown to Monomoy, but awareness should apply to any beach since these sharks travel the whole coast of Massachusetts. Just as people tend to check the weather and traffic reports, he suggests also making it a habit to check the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy Shark Activity app to see if there's any local shark action. The app, on which the aquarium collaborates, tracks sharp sightings and pings from tagged white sharks picked up by the New England Science Communities Network of offshore receivers from Massachusetts Bay to Nantucket and Vineyard Sounds. A lot of people think of the ocean as their own personal recreation area, but you're going into the wilderness when you're going into the water. Evidence of sharks feeding on dead whale. While Chisholm's sighting of a seal with a fresh shark bite off Plymouth happened about a month ago, the dead minke whale was spotted on Tuesday by Captain Damon Burden of Pythia Sport Fishing. It was about 10 miles east of Chatham, said Burden. He was hosting one of his fishing outfit's pelagic bird watching trips when they noticed a bunch of birds around a particular spot in the ocean. When they went to investigate, they didn't see any sharks, but did see bites taken out of the whale's carcass. There was still some blood trickling out of one of the bites, Burden said, which made him believe the whale had died recently. Chisholm said the sharks were feeding off it, but it definitely wasn't killed by the sharks. Burden, who's seen plenty of white sharks on fishing outings, was surprised to see evidence of the sharks at this time of year. I wouldn't think a great white would be out there that early. Is it early for white sharks to be showing up? Gregory Skomel, a leading shark researcher with the State Division of Marine Fisheries, who collaborates with the Chatham-based White Shark Conservancy, said scientists expect to see the sharks returning as the waters start warming up. The recent evidence of their presence is not a surprise to him. The timing is pretty typical, he said. The bulk of the sharks have yet to come. Depending on how warm June is, white shark activity could ramp up as soon as mid to late June and early July. The season usually peaks between August and October. Cape Cod research about Atlantic white sharks. Over the last decade, Cape Cod has emerged as a world-renowned hotspot for Atlantic white sharks visiting during the summer and fall. Researchers have been taking advantage of the chance to study the sharks' behavior, to understand what motivates them, and to guide public safety policies. Skomel works closely with shark scientist Megan Winton and other researchers from the Conservancy to tag sharks during the season and collect underwater video footage of white sharks around Cape Cod. They use multiple tools, including satellite acoustic, accelerometer, and camera tags to track the sharks' habitat use. Last summer, 80 individual sharks were recorded in local waters over the course of 5 months, not counting any that evaded the scientists' underwater video cameras. More than 700 individual white sharks have been cataloged in the Northwest Atlantic in recent years. That's not to say there are hundreds of sharks present at any given time. The scientists emphasize that there is a lot of coming and going during the season. Skomel said plans for the season include continuing to tag as many new sharks as possible and to deploy more tags with video capabilities to gain an understanding of how the sharks hunt. They will also continue to use drones to sight sharks and study their behaviors. Most of the standard acoustic receivers they use to detect previously tagged sharks have been put back into the ocean, and the rest should be deployed by June. They're also preparing to return 5 live receivers to the waters off Outer Cape beaches. These devices pick up movements of tagged sharks in real time and transmit advisories to public safety personnel on shore. The next front page story. Abandoned trailer with swastikas off-road in South Yarmouth removed by Zane Razik, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. An abandoned trailer marked with anti-Semitic graffiti on the side of the road in South Yarmouth was removed last week. State Representative Christopher Flanagan of Dennis said he received a phone call from a constituent on Tuesday about the wooden trailer along Long Pond Drive with images of swastikas drawn on the sides. Flanagan said he contacted several organizations, officials including the Yarmouth Police Chief, the Town Administrator, and the Anti-Defamation League, the Jewish Community Relations Council, and the Attorney General's Office. Flanagan said the town immediately followed up and the trailer was removed Thursday. Long Pond Drive runs through a largely residential neighborhood north of Route 28. Obviously, there is no place for hate on the Cape and certainly in Yarmouth. It's important for folks to know we take these things seriously. We want people to feel comfortable and safe. Yarmouth Chief of Police Kevin Lennon was not immediately available for comment on Sunday. Increased reports of hate crime incidents in Massachusetts. According to a September report, the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security received a total of 440 reports of hate crime incidents in 2022, the highest report since 2002 and up from 406 in 2021 from 90 municipal police departments. Of these reported hate incidents, 14.5% were related to anti-Semitic incidents. In 2022, Chatham police investigated anti-Semitic flyers found on State Harbor Road and Bridge Street. According to an online statement from police, on July 5th, the flyers with anti-Semitic messages about news media were found inside plastic bags weighed down by rocks. Police found about 20 flyers. None appeared to target a person living in Chatham, the police said. In mid-November, a penciled image of a swastika with racist anti-gay and anti-Semitic language was found in a Sandwich Middle High School bathroom and became the subject of an investigation, according to Sandwich Public School Superintendent Joseph Maruzik and acting school principal Jeannie Nelson. School officials sent letters to parents and guardians about the incident, reported it to Sandwich Police, and pledged to use the incident as a teachable moment. Hate symbols associated with white supremacy and anti-Semitism were found on buildings for two indigenous-based organizations in Mashpee in March, and the Bourne Historical Commission chair resigned in December after using an anti-Semitic slur 2 months prior to a public meeting. Vehemently disapproves. In a statement, Mashpee-based Fraser Construction Company said the company was notified about the trailer on Friday. It was near a rental property owned by Dean Fraser, the founder and prior owner of Fraser Construction Company. Unfortunately, we did not know about this abandoned trailer until after it had been there, the company wrote. To be very clear, Fraser Construction Company Incorporated does not condone but vehemently disapproves all hate-related speech and conduct. We also feel victimized by such despicable conduct. Our company and all those associated with it, past and present, disavow having anything to do with this trailer and hereby denounce such conduct. In the statement, the company urged anyone with information to contact the Yarmouth Police. The next story. After girl was assaulted in 2020 at Yarmouth home, man sent to prison. Walker Armstrong, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. A Yarmouth man was sentenced to 12 to 15 years in prison for his role in the assault of 2 minors in February 2020, the Cape and Islands District Attorney's Office said in a Friday statement. Jonathan Fleischman, 36, pleaded guilty to home invasion, firearm, armed kidnapping, firearm, armed assault in a dwelling, assault to rape, assault with a dangerous weapon, and assault and battery, the DA's office said. The charges relate to events on February 6, 2020, at about 2:20 p.m., when a girl was walking home from school with her boyfriend when she encountered a man, later identified as Fleischman, at her home in Yarmouth. Posing as an electric company employee, the man told the girl the power to her home would be shut off. After this interaction, he left briefly before re-entering the garage where the girl was, this time wearing a ski mask and armed with a gun. Fleischman ordered the girl into her house, but she tried to get away. During her struggle, her boyfriend heard the commotion and ran to help. Seeing the boyfriend approach, Fleischman fled down the driveway and onto the street. He pointed his gun back toward the boyfriend to stop him from chasing him. During a Yarmouth police investigation, officers reviewed footage from a nearby security camera which captured Fleischman fleeing the scene. The girl later identified Fleischman in a photo array on March 10, 2020. In the Cape and Islands section, in Bourne, familiar faces snag seats in town government, by Paul Gately, special to Cape Cod Times, Bourne. Town Clerk Barry Johnson, late Wednesday afternoon, announced the slew of write-in candidates that filled the Tuesday ballot, which featured 6 town government slots with no candidates. Overall, there were 191 write-in candidates during Tuesday balloting, with many receiving numerous votes across the spectrum of vacant terms. The write-ins were hand-counted by poll workers, and top vote-getters were determined by Johnson's office. Kathleen Quintal got 276 write-ins for a vacant school committee term. Former moderator Select Board member Donald Picard received 15 write-in tallies for constable. He is a Bourne Recreation Authority member. Board of Health write-ins who prevailed are Margaret Reilly, 142 votes, and Miguel Preto, 176. There were 2 Health Board vacancies. Amy Sharp, a Recreation Committee member, tallied 129 votes for the vacant Bourne Public Trustee term. Former Bourne Historical Society President Diane Flynn secured 10 write-ins for the military veteran term on the Community Center Trustee Board. Town Clerk Barry Johnson has contacted all of the apparent winners. Assistant Town Clerk Mary Fernandez said as of 1 p.m. Friday, 2 have come into the office to be sworn in, Picard and Preto, she said. Memorial Day on Cape Cod shows a couple of pictures. One picture reads, above, flags around Veterans Memorial Park in Orleans frame the procession as walkers make their way from Town Cove to the park at Academy Place. A short ceremony was held at Town Cove Landing Monday morning to honor the armed services. Attendees then walked to Veterans Memorial Park at Academy Place, where former state representative and Marine Corps veteran Timothy Whalen was the keynote speaker. Students from the Nauset Regional Middle School Band and Chorus performed the national anthem, and the town's police and fire honor guards provided the colors. Another picture included left, Nauset 6th grader Kavan Butler of Brewster placed taps at the end of Monday's ceremony with 6th grader Charlie Muldoon of Brewster at Town Cove and Veterans Memorial Park in Orleans. Photos by Marilee Cassidy, Cape Cod Times. The next Cape and Islands story. Harry Connick Jr. selling Chatham Summer House by Zane Razig, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. Grammy Award-winning jazz musician and actor Harry Connick Jr. is parting ways with his Cape Cod vacation home. The waterfront 5,308-square-foot mansion at 23 Oyster Pond Lane in Chatham has hit the market with a listing of $12.5 million. Connick and his wife, actress and former model Jill Goodacre, bought the mansion in 2006 for $5.6 million. Paul Grover with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Robert Paul Properties, will represent the listing. He said the family no longer uses the house as much. I think their kids have grown up. They used it for many years when their kids were growing up and young and had summer jobs. Connick is among a number of celebrities who live on Cape and the islands at least part of the time. In Chatham, the median sales price in April for a single-family home was $1.5 million, down 22% from a year ago, according to Cape Cod and Islands Association of Realtors. There were 44 single-family homes for sale in April, the same as a year ago. Connick, we just had a great time. In 2018, Connick told the Times his family had friends in the area and went to visit them years ago before falling in love with the Cape. We just had a great time and thought it might be a fun place to spend some summers. We ended up staying, and it's not hard to find reasons to stay. It's a beautiful part of the world, and we've had a lot of nice times up there, said Connick then. Behind hedges and down a long driveway, the 1960s built shingle-style house sits on a 1.3-acre bluff with views of Oyster Pond and the village. The property has a swimming pool, a private dock, a boathouse, and a study that Connick used to compose music. It's on the water, but it's so close to downtown Chatham and Grover, you can be on the water and very private, and I think that's unique. To get really private and close to downtown Chatham is unusual. The house is being sold furnished, besides a few family pieces that will be excluded. A renovation was done to the property by PSD Architects and Builders in Harwich. The next story. Scientists study La Niña, Stronger Hurricanes Link by Jim Waymer, Florida Today, USA Today Network. Global warming was expected to cause slightly fewer but stronger hurricanes, typhoons, and tropical cyclones, according to climate models. That might yet hold true globally, but recent science shows more La Niña-like conditions may be also driven by climate change than most climate models would have predicted. And while the trend toward more La Niñas could mean fewer typhoons in the Pacific Ocean, it also stands to fuel more hurricanes in the Atlantic. Given the high probability that La Niña will form this summer, Floridians could soon get a taste of future hurricane seasons to come. It's a very active area of discussion, said Phil Klotzbach, senior research scientist at Colorado State University's Department of Atmospheric Science. As long as we continue this trend towards La Niña, I would say that Atlantic hurricane activity should be elevated. As La Niña reduces vertical wind shear in the Atlantic, Klotzbach added via email, the global trend in hurricanes typhoons is downward since La Niña reduces hurricanes typhoons in the Pacific Ocean. The increasing trend in La Niña-like conditions was among the hot topics at the American Meteorological Society's annual conference earlier this year. And predicting future hurricane threats is growing increasingly important for the insurance industry and emergency managers. Some 1 million Florida buildings, 90% of them homes, are expected to be overrun by sea level rise by 2100, according to one study. El Niño is a trend of warmer water near the equator in the Pacific that tends to create winds that shear apart hurricanes as they form in the Atlantic, resulting in fewer hurricanes. La Niña's cooler Pacific waters and neutral phases between the two cycles lack as many shearing winds, typically resulting in more hurricanes. If climate models continue to get predictions in the Pacific wrong, they could underestimate the number of hurricanes that will form and strengthen. The next story, Storms Kill 21 in 4 States Over Holiday Weekend, by Kanishka Singh Reuters. Tornado-spawning thunderstorms that swept the southern plains and Ozarks have killed at least 21 people as of Monday morning across 4 states and wrecked hundreds of buildings, with forecasters warning of more severe weather. The death toll over the weekend includes at least 8 fatalities in Arkansas, 7 in Texas, 4 in Kentucky, and 2 in Oklahoma, according to tallies by state emergency authorities. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear declared a state of emergency early on Monday, while the National Weather Service said a severe thunderstorm watch was issued for parts of Georgia and South Carolina until at least Monday afternoon. It was a tough night for our people, Beshear said on social media platform X on Monday. He later said in a news briefing that devastating storms had hit almost the entire state. Officials said 100 state highways and roads were damaged by the storms. At least 7 people perished, including 2 children aged 2 and 5 from a single family, and nearly 100 were injured on Saturday night when a powerful tornado struck communities in North Texas near the Oklahoma border, Governor Greg Abbott said Sunday. Late on Sunday, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders said the state had at least 8 deaths after the storm. A resident in Arkansas suffering from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease died due to lack of oxygen when the power went out. Hundreds of thousands of Americans faced power outages on Monday due to the weather, according to the poweroutage.us tracking website, with Kentucky alone having over 180,000 outages. In some areas, restoring power could take days. The National Weather Service warned of additional storms moving through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, bringing damaging winds, large hail, and more tornadoes, as well as heavy downpours capable of triggering flash floods. The latest extreme weather came just days after a powerful tornado ripped through an Iowa town, killing 4 people, and more twisters touched down in Texas last week. We've reached the halfway point of today's reading of the Cape Cod Times, dated Tuesday, May 28th. There are no obituaries listed for today. Back to our stories. In Nation and World Briefs, USA Today Network and Reuters. Trump adds human scum in New York cases to Memorial Day message. West Palm Beach, Florida. On a solemn day of remembrance and honoring the nation's fallen heroes, former President Donald Trump posted rival messages honoring America's military war dead and wishing a happy Memorial Day to all, including, he wrote, the human scum involved in his New York legal cases. A lengthy post on his Truth Social platform focused exclusively on his court battles, primarily in New York State. The post took aim at the proceedings by a writer who won a sexual assault and defamation civil case against Trump, as well as the business fraud case brought by the New York Attorney General that has resulted in almost $500 million judgment against him, his sons Donald Jr. and Eric, and the family empire, the Trump Organization. It also included a swipe at the judge presiding over the ongoing criminal case against him in Manhattan. Report U.S. soldier held in Russia accused of threat to kill girlfriend. London. A U.S. military serviceman detained in Russia on suspicion of theft has also been charged with threatening to kill his girlfriend, Russian independent outlet Media Zona reported on Monday, citing the local prosecutor's office. Prosecutors in Vladivostok in Russia's Far East said they have approved an indictment of U.S. citizen born in 1989. It did not name the U.S. citizen, but the details matched Black's. The prosecutor's statement said the two had quarreled and the American had subsequently forcibly grabbed the girl by the neck, which she perceived as a real threat to her life. It did not say how or whether the accused had responded to the new charge. Black, a 34-year-old U.S. Staff Sergeant, was detained on May 2nd by police on suspicion of stealing from a Russian woman he was in a relationship with. He has pleaded guilty to the theft charges and is cooperating with investigators. A Russian court ruled last week to keep him in pretrial detention. Sotomayor says she cries after some Supreme Court cases. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor revealed last week that there are days on the nation's highest court that take an emotional toll. There are days that I've come to my office after an announcement of a case and closed my door and cried, Sotomayor said Friday at the Radcliffe Institute for Advanced Study at Harvard University, where she was receiving an award. Sotomayor, the most senior liberal-leaning justice on the court, didn't cite any specific arguments that have moved her to tears. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on contentious cases in the coming weeks, from abortion rights to guns and free speech. There are moments when I'm deeply, deeply sad, she said, and there are moments when, yes, even I feel desperation. We all do. But you have to own it. You have to accept it. You have to shed the tears, and then you have to wipe them and get up and fight some more. Spain to give Ukraine $1 billion worth of military aid. Madrid. Spain has pledged to provide military support to Ukraine with $1 billion this year under an agreement signed on Monday between Ukrainian President Zelensky and Spanish Prime Minister Sanchez in Madrid. It is more important than ever to redouble our support, Sanchez told a news conference. The pact, which covers the next decade, calls for the supply of modern military equipment for ground, aerial, naval, and other uses, prioritizing Ukraine's key capacity needs and an emphasis on maritime means to protect Ukraine's food export routes, but gave no specifics. El País newspaper reported earlier on Monday that Spain would commit to send Ukraine a dozen U.S.-made Patriot anti-aircraft missiles, 19 second-hand German-made Leopard 2A4 tanks, as well as other Spanish-made weapons such as anti-drone gear and ammunition. 6 people stabbed at Massachusetts movie theater and McDonald's. 4 girls were stabbed in an unprovoked attack at Braintree, Massachusetts movie theater, and 2 adults were stabbed a short time later at a fast food restaurant before a suspect was arrested following a police chase, police said. Police said a man entered a theater at AMC Braintree 10 at about 6 p.m. on Saturday. Without saying anything and without warning, he suddenly attacked and stabbed the 4 young females, then fled in a black SUV. The girls, ages 9 to 17, were treated for non-life-threatening injuries at the scene and transported to Boston hospitals. About an hour later, police responded to calls about a stabbing at a McDonald's. A man, 29, and woman, 21, were transported to area hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. State police pursued the SUV, which crashed in Sandwich, about 45 miles southeast of Braintree. The driver was taken into custody and brought to a hospital for treatment. Man charged for setting New York subway passenger on fire. A man has been charged with assault, among other charges, after he set a container of flammable liquid on fire and threw it at a subway passenger in New York City, authorities said Sunday. Niall Taylor, 49, was arrested on Saturday after he threw a flammable substance at a 23-year-old man at a subway station in Lower Manhattan, the New York Police Department told USA Today. He faces multiple charges, including attempted assault, arson, reckless endangerment, petty larceny, criminal possession of a weapon, and criminal possession of stolen property in connection with the two incidents, according to police. The victim was taken to a hospital for treatment. Police said Taylor was also responsible for a similar attack in early February. Geneva. Member states of the World Health Organization, WHO, on Monday decided not to invite Taiwan to the organization's annual assembly in Geneva after China appealed for it to remain sidelined. Taiwan is excluded from most international organizations because of objections by China, which considers the democratically governed island its own territory. Taiwan attended the WHO's World Health Assembly as an observer from 2009 to 2016 under the administration of then-President Ma Ying-jeou, who signed landmark trade and tourism agreements with China. But Beijing began blocking Taiwan's participation in 2017 after President Tsai Ing-wen won office for her refusal to agree to China's position that both China and Taiwan are a part of one China. EU to end military mission to Niger by June 30th, Brussels. The European Union will end a military mission comprising dozens of soldiers in Niger at the end of June, it said on Monday, citing the junta-run nation's political situation. Until a coup in 2023, Niger had been a partner of the West and Africa Sahel region against militants who have killed thousands and displaced millions more. However, the military rulers have pushed former colonial power France to remove its forces and agreed on the withdrawal of American troops while deepening ties with Russia. The Council today decided to not extend the European Union military partnership mission in Niger beyond 30th of June 2024 in view of the grave current political situation in the country. Established in 2022, the mission, one of the world's poorest countries, has some 50 to 100 European troops there to help with the logistics and infrastructure. Biden honors soldiers in Memorial Day ceremony. By Jarrett Renshaw, Reuters, Arlington. President Joe Biden honored fallen soldiers during the 156th observance of Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery outside the nation's capital on Monday. Biden placed a wreath of flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldiers in a solemn ceremony where he was accompanied by Vice President Kamala Harris and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. We gather at this sacred place at this solemn moment to remember, to honor the sacrifice of the hundreds of thousands of women and men who have given their lives for this nation, Biden said afterward at the cemetery's amphitheater. Earlier in the day, Biden hosted a White House breakfast in honor of Memorial Day that included administration officials, military leadership, veterans, and so-called Gold Star family members, referring to those who have lost an immediate relative in military action. The Memorial Day ceremony is the latest in a string of events where Biden has focused on active and retired military personnel, including delivering the commencement speech on Saturday at U.S. Military Academy in West Point, New York. Next week, the president will travel to Normandy, France, to participate in ceremonies marking the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. He is expected to give a major speech about the heroism of Allied forces in World War II and the continuing threats to democracy today. Thursday will mark the 9th anniversary of the death of Biden's son, Beau, who served in Iraq as part of Delaware's National Guard. Beau died from glioblastoma, a highly aggressive form of brain cancer that his father believes was possibly a consequence of exposure to military burn pits in Iraq. This week marks 9 years since I lost my son, Beau. Our losses are not the same. He didn't perish on the battlefield. He was a cancer victim. The pain of his loss is with me every day. So is the pride in his service. On Memorial Day, each grave site at Arlington has a small American flag carefully positioned exactly one booth length away from the headstone. The next story. Commentary. Leave aggressive drivers' road rage alone. Studies show behaviors increasing since 1990s. Dr. Jaya Prakash, Florida Today, USA Today Network. Road rage and aggressive driving are becoming more common every day across the country. Road rage happens when our emotions get the best of us. It leads us to behave aggressively and even dangerously. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration does not make a distinction between aggressive driving, mostly regarded as a traffic offense, versus more violent behavior like road rage, quite often regarded as a criminal offense. Nonetheless, both aggressive driving and road rage contribute to serious and sometimes deadly consequences. According to AAA studies, more than 90% of us have witnessed aggressive driving in the past year. While it is more common on highways, small thoroughfares are no exception as more people move into previously quieter areas with increased urbanization. More traffic and congestion are becoming the norm. Most reported behaviors include tailgating, rude gestures, cutting drivers off, not allowing people to merge, running red lights, honking, and yelling. Most studies have shown that these have steadily increasing since the early 1990s. Increased traffic is the number one reason given by people why they get frustrated. Most importantly, it is time crunch. We tend to cram more things into our schedules. It leaves no buffer time whatsoever and does not allow us leeway for traffic jams that causes us to be late, according to the American Psychological Association. In addition to dealing with the reality of increased traffic or backed up traffic, if you are already frustrated and angry or have a short fuse, you are more likely to respond with anger. If you get behind the wheel already angry, then you are much more likely to engage in road rage or aggressive driving. What should you do if you are at the receiving end of aggressive driving? Number 1, get out of the way. Let them pass. Do not react. Do not engage in reciprocal behavior. Get to a safe place, or if you are feeling in danger, call 911. 50% of us have admitted to trying to respond in the same kind to aggressive behavior that can lead to dangerous and deadly consequences. There is nothing more important than arriving safely at our destination. It is simply not worth teaching somebody a lesson by engaging in reciprocal behavior. What should you do if you start feeling frustrated and angry and feel that you may be spiraling into aggressive behavior? Take a deep breath and think about the consequences. Is it worth it? Is it an especially important question you must ask yourself? You will be surprised. Your insurance can double if you are caught recklessly driving. If you drive aggressively routinely, you spend up to $500 per year more on gas. That is a good incentive not to engage in aggressive behavior. What should you do instead? Take a deep breath and focus on what's in front of you. Notice things around you. For example, one day I was stuck at a traffic light and we were going nowhere fast. I could have gotten frustrated and angry. Instead, I accepted the fact that I was going to be late. It allowed me to notice that right next to the traffic signal there was a pole. On top was a beautiful osprey nest with chicks peeping out. It brought a smile to my face and my mood lightened. Take a moment to check in with yourself. Check in with your surroundings. Listen to calming music. If you have kids in the back seat, talk to them. Catch up with them. Use that time to really catch up on the day. Have a backup plan in case you are going to be late. Picking up kids or meeting the customer. Is there a way you can safely communicate with them that you will be late? Is there somebody else who can pick up the kids and stay with them until you reach there? It will take the pressure off you and edge off the emotions. Build extra time in your commute, especially around peak rush hours or school times. It is better to arrive at the destination a few minutes early rather than to be frustrated and late. It is especially important that you manage your emotions. Disengage the reactionary type of behavior. Practice the 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, and then thoughtful action. You have no control over the traffic or other people's behavior. Think what your action would be and the consequences for yourself and other drivers. You are more likely to act in a positive way if you come up to a backup caused by an accident. Practice extending kindness and empathy to the people who may be involved and hope that they are safe. As my dad would say, better to be late Mr. than be the late Mr. Tennesseans join suit against Ozempic. Plaintiffs say drug maker failed to warn of dangers. By Tyler Whetstone, Knoxville News Sentinel, USA Today Network, Tennessee. By the time he reached the fourth day of not being able to keep food down, Bob Tuttle knew he was in trouble. The problem? He was 120 miles from shore in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico working on an oil rig. Tuttle, 60, had to be flown off in a medvac helicopter. 2 days later, back in Knoxville, he went to the ER. Within the week, he was diagnosed with gastroparesis, a weakening of the stomach. Tuttle, a type 2 diabetic, is one of dozens of Tennesseans who joined federal lawsuits against the makers of the diabetic and weight loss drug, including Ozempic, which his doctors had prescribed 2 years before he got sick. Thousands of patients are preparing to sue Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly for injuries they allege result from taking drugs the companies created, including gastroparesis and gallbladder removal. Symptoms can start as perpetual morning sickness can become much worse if they go untreated. Tuttle was a health, safety, and environmental advisor on the rig, a job that required him to look out for the safety of employees working various jobs on the rig. He was in good health, he said, in part because of his job. Everywhere you go is steps and stairs, and everything you touch is iron. You don't have to hit the gym. In order to be on the rig, though, he had to maintain his blood sugar levels per U.S. Coast Guard health regulations. To manage that, in about 2018, his doctor prescribed Ozempic. Little by little, though, Tuttle began to lose weight, mostly in the form of muscle mass. He would get fatigued quicker during his long hours on the rig. He'd be wiped out by regular days when he'd walk 10,000 to 12,000 steps and climb the equivalent of 100 stories up and down. Then in the months before he got really sick, he started feeling nauseated daily. Then the real sickness hit. Gastroparesis, in layman's terms, is just the inability of the stomach to process solids or liquids that one ingests. My stomach was processing some of the liquids, but none of the solids during the test that they ran on me in the hospital. Tuttle no longer suffers from nausea, but the episode forced him to quit his job. He took a job on an oceanic wind farm for less pay, and he still gets fatigued more easily. Curtis Caples, a 44-year-old from Memphis, had a similar experience. Caples told the Knoxville News Sentinel, a part of the USA Today network, that he was prescribed Ozempic in 2023 for his type 2 diabetes. He took it for 7 or 8 months, he said, and he mostly immediately began having trouble. Multiple times a week, Caples would be racked with nausea that led to vomiting. At times he had severe diarrhea and decreased libido. He said at one point his blood sugar got out of control and he spent a couple of days in the hospital to get it regulated. He blames the drug for the spike, saying it was the only thing new to his system. Sometimes his health required Caples to call off from work. Forklift drivers don't have time to be throwing up, he said. I'm hoping they can come up with a better medicine, if anything, because everyone knows type 2 diabetes is serious. We need better medicine without so many side effects. Both Tuttle and Caples jumped at the opportunity to join the lawsuit. I want to get the information out about how dangerous Ozempic is out to the public. I see some people that are using Ozempic for weight loss. They do not realize how dangerous it can be and the possible long-term effects that come from its use. Yes, you will lose weight, but you will also lose muscle mass, and it could cause long-term damage and change your life in ways in which you do not consider. Where the lawsuit stands. Like most patients in the suit, Tuttle has not yet filed an individual lawsuit, but instead has added his name to thousands who are ready to file claims once the court gets to that point. After dozens of lawsuits were filed against Novo Nordisk for its drug Ozempic, Wegovy and Rivals, and Eli Lilly for its drug Trulicity and Mounjaro, the federal court system lumped the cases together in a multi-district litigation similar to a class action lawsuit. The combination makes for a bunch of allegations, which the companies have denied. They include, the companies knew or should have known that their drugs could cause gastroparesis or other gastrointestinal injuries. The companies didn't adequately warn consumers or the doctors of the alleged dangers of the drugs. The companies made false or misleading representations about the safety of the drugs. To complicate matters, the judge overseeing the lawsuit, G.E.K. Pradier, died May 17th. The court has not yet ruled on who will take the case or whether it will remain in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Andrew Van Arsdale is an attorney in San Diego and Billings, Montana, whose law firm, Ava Law Group, specializes in massive personal injury litigation and represents about 2,000 people who had side effects or negative reactions to these drugs, including nearly 70 Tennesseans. Those cases have yet to be filed because lawyers are waiting for the judge to advise them about how to file them in court. Van Arsdale said some 40,000 people reached out to his office, but most didn't qualify for the lawsuit. The nearly 2,000 people who were hospitalized with a gastrointestinal issue, of those, he said, 10% will be impaired for the rest of their lives. On its face, it's a good drug, Van Arsdale told Knox News. The manufacturers have put so much money into marketing the drug to consumers and doctors, and the market caps are exploding, and you can go out and make money, that's fine, but you still have an obligation and a duty of law to warn doctors and label it correctly, he said. In the family section, Taylor Swift's baby gets the internet riled up. Begs question, do babies belong at concerts? By Marco Della Cava, USA Today. When is bringing a baby to a concert not okay? Apparently when that baby is lying on the floor. At least that's the consensus of social media after a photo went viral this weekend showing an infant flat on its back on the floor of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert Friday night at La Défense Arena in Paris. The controversial picture, allegedly snapped at the show by another attendee and then shared by a range of Swiftie fan accounts, depicts a baby wearing a light-up wristband in the pit area, no seats, with a person, presumably one of the parents, hovering over the child. The account has since been made private. Related photos have surfaced online, including one posted on X, which showed the baby on the floor seemingly snoozing away while fans milled around. The lack of common sense is astonishing to me, the post read in part. While the baby did appear to have noise-reducing headphones on, the image of an infant lying on the ground while an adult feet stomp around dangerously close around it generated largely alarmed reactions, says fanfluencer Olivia Levin, who shared the image on her popular Instagram account, Swifties for Eternity. From what I've seen, mostly people were appalled by what it says Levin, 24 of Nashville, Tennessee, who says she decided to take her post down because the baby's face wasn't blurred out. Sure, a few people in my comments and DMs said to me, "You're not a mother or a parent and can't understand what we do for our kids. It's my only opportunity to see Taylor Swift." Others said that they parent different in Europe, which was interesting, but most completely disagreed. It brings up an important conversation about how young is too young to be at a show. An innumerable Taylor Swift concerts she has attended, Levin said she has seen young girls and even toddlers, but never a baby. Typical of the horrified reaction was a comment on X next to the photo of a thoroughly packed stadium. Just to paint the full picture, this is general admission at the Paris show tonight, and that baby is somewhere in the floor at the show. Terrible parenting. The rules around kids at shows can vary from promoter to promoter, venue to venue, and country to country. Generally speaking, the rules are actually guidelines. The only restrictions might revolve around the age at which a child must show up with a ticket as opposed to going in free. The La Défense Arena website notes that the venue doesn't recommend bringing children under the age of 4, even if accompanied, particularly due to the high volume. It also notes that strollers are prohibited, which would explain why this Swiftie could only rest their baby on the floor. A venue spokesperson told the New York Post page 6 that the fan in question would have been offered a place to sit. For spectators with a young child in the floor, an alternative seating arrangement has been proposed but refused by ticket holders. A quick Google search reveals that plenty of parents are seeking guidance on the best way to bring a baby to a concert. In the Ask Carolyn section. Hi, Carolyn. Sadly, my aunt is approaching the end of a multi-year terminal battle with cancer. It's going to be really tough for everyone, especially my mom. her other sisters, and her kids. I'm entirely on the sidelines and don't know how to be supportive. Nobody brings up her condition in depth or how they're feeling, though I do ask. Can I change this now? I am visiting her soon with my mom and aunts. I'm mainly a source of comic relief and lighthearted distraction. I want to be somebody they can talk to about their feelings. With my aunt's adult children about my age, I also want to be supportive, but I've kept them at arm's length for the past 15 years for my well-being, given some of their repeated behaviors. Family clown. You feel an ache to get closer to your family, and that sounds like an emotional transformation for you. That's a good thing, one that is commonly accompanies a hard goodbye. Death is destabilizing and churns up a lot of other stuff with it, a lot of outdated certainties and givens, but it also can create chaotic emotional cravings, aka mess. So it might be easier on you if you narrow your focus, look at the list of people you want to connect with more deeply, then choose the best one as a start. To me, it's obvious. Your mom, but your aunt makes sense too. The cousins probably come off the list entirely for now, at least under your current pressure. Undoing 15 years of having good reasons not to interact with them is a project for clearer thinking times. So let's say you start with your mother. Instead of asking how she's doing, try something more expository. You know, I keep things light, kind of my role, but I see what you're going through now and I want to be more helpful. Is there something specific I can do for you? If you want to lean on me, I'm here. If she's receptive, then you can float ideas about concrete assistance. If she's not receptive, then don't give up long term, but also don't press in the short term. That would verge on asking her to help you feel better about this, which is the exact opposite of supporting her. Just be present and attentive to needs. I'm sorry about your aunt. Reader's thoughts. Don't overlook helping with the very practical. Driving your aunt to appointments is an obvious one. There are probably a lot of neglected tasks that if your aunt wants and will accept, the help will lighten the load for caregivers. Also, just being there and being quiet. My sister got visitors at all hours of the day from people who were concerned about her being alone, but just knowing I was there, people would leave her alone and she could get some sleep. Another day, she just wanted to get out for a while. She couldn't drive. Sometimes just show up and follow their lead. As a comic relief in my family, I just want to give family clowns the credit they deserve. Don't underestimate that contribution. People need a break during heavy times, and being able to make sad people laugh is an incredible gift many folks can't pull off. So sure, offer to help, but keep the comedy medicine coming. In local sports, high school boys tennis, ranking Cape and Islands top teams by Courtney Jacobs, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. The MIAA state tournament starts this week, and 9 of the 13 Cape and Islands boys tennis teams will be in action. Martha's Vineyard, 5th in Division 3, and Sturgis, 8th in Division 4, lead the way in the brackets with top 10 seedings. These rankings will feature all 9 playoff teams with the top 5 and 4 honorable mentions. Here are the second boys tennis rankings of the season. Number 1, Martha's Vineyard, a 12-4 win. There is a new number 1 team on this ranking. The Vineyarders. They are the highest seeded team for good reason. They have 4 losses, but they have only dropped matches to 2 teams in Sharon twice and Appoquinette twice. The Vineyarders are unbeaten against every Cape and Islands opponent they have faced this season as they beat Monomoy twice, Nauset twice, Nantucket twice, Barnstable twice, and Falmouth twice. Martha's Vineyard has been dominant in its wins with 8 sweeps and 4 wins by 4-1. Ranked number 2, Sturgis, 9-1. Sturgis and Martha's Vineyard are the 2 top teams in the playoffs. And also on this rankings list, Sturgis has only dropped 1 match this season to Cape Cod Academy, but returned the favor with a 3-1 win over the Seahawks on the road. Sturgis is currently on a 5-match win streak entering the playoffs. They are the only team on the Cape that has won at least 2 of the 5 sets in every single match. They beat Mashpee twice and Nantucket twice, 2 playoff Cape teams. Number 3, Cape Cod Academy with a 12-2. The former number 1 team on this rankings list has dropped a couple of spots, but they are still one of the best teams on the Cape and Islands. The Seahawks were riding a 12-match win streak before the team above them beat them in a regular season finale of 3-1. Their only loss came at the hands of Monomoy in the season opener, so they opened the season with a loss and ended with a loss. And between the first and last game, they were on fire with wins over Falmouth twice, Monomoy, Nantucket twice, and Sturgis. Number 4, Barnstable with a 14-5. The Red Hawks are the lone Cape and Islands team representing Division 1 as the 28th seed. Barnstable has been playing their best tennis of the season. They won 5 straight, their longest win streak of the season, before they dropped their last match of the regular season to Nantucket. They also beat Nantucket earlier in the season, as well as Falmouth twice, Monomoy twice, and Nauset. Their losses have been to some tough competition, as they fell to Nauset, Martha's Vineyard twice, and Cohasset. Number 5, Monomoy, a 12-6. The Sharks were a top 10 seed last season, and in the 2022 season, 5th, but this year they will be just outside the top 10 with the 13th seed. Monomoy lost in the round of 16 last season and the Elite 8 the season before. They've had some quality wins over good Cape and Islands playoff teams as they have defeated Cape Cod Academy, Falmouth twice, Nauset twice, and Nantucket. Their losses are not as bad as they have fallen to Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard twice, Cape Cod Academy, and Barnstable twice. Honorable mention, Nauset, 11-5. The Warriors only have wins over 2 playoff teams this season, in Falmouth twice and Barnstable. On the flip side, they have only lost to 3 teams over 16 matches, in Martha's Vineyard twice, Monomoy twice, and Barnstable. They will enter the postseason as the 22nd seed in Division 3. Nantucket, a 7-9. The Whalers have had 2 good wins over Monomoy and Plymouth South. They also have had an argument for one of the toughest schedules on the Cape and Islands, as all 9 losses have been to teams in the playoffs. Mashpee, 10-6. The Falcons have no wins over playoff teams this season, but they have been beating opponents that are put in front of them. Falmouth, 8-10. Like Mashpee, the Clippers have not defeated any playoff teams this season, but their schedule was not exactly the easiest. They dropped matches to Nauset twice, Cape Cod Academy twice, Barnstable twice, Martha's Vineyard twice, and Monomoy. They will be the 31st seed in Division 3, but will play host in their preliminary round matchup. We've reached the end of our reading for today, Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, of the Cape Cod Times. Have a great day.